Hey, today I am here with my great grandma, Billy Flint, and we're going to be discussing Hurricane Katrina. So, how old are you now?
81.
81. So, you were about 73 when it hit, because it was about 9 years ago.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Where were you during the storm? Where were you living?
I was living on Hartfield Road in Columbia, Mississippi, and
Same place you are today.
yes, and I was at home.
Okay. Who was with you here?
Well, my son that lives in a trailer, he and his family were here, and I had Nina and Tristan and Bubba. I had a house full.
I remember that. Oh, was anyone you know injured during the storm? Were any property damage or anything?
No, we had a lot of property damage, but and only one person that I knew died, and he lived on the coast. A friend of my daughter's was drowned.
What kind of property damage did you have?
Well, I didn't have that much property damage, but I had a lot of trees down. I have big, tall pine trees in my yard, and only one hit the house, and it just hit the edge of my garage and the patio. That's the only damage I had. But I had just a lot of trees on top of trees down, because I have these big pine trees in my yard, big tall pine trees, and when they fell, the wind was blowing them, but they were blowing them away from the house if they fell and not on the house. So we were very lucky there, and very blessed that God didn't let them, because even one of them would have destroyed my house if it fell.
Yeah, it really
We
would.
watched them out the window if they'd fall, and they would go the other way. But the ones that were in my yard that came right up to the house, I had them all around the house. They came out of the woods, but they would come right to the house, but they didn't touch it. So that, it was
A blessing.
a blessing. And my driveway was just covered with trees. You couldn't get out. No way in the world you could get out. But that afternoon, after the storm was over, this neighbor of mine brought his saw over here, and they cleared the driveway away off, but we couldn't get out because the roads were all covered with trees. But anyway, it was a real hard time for us all, because we had no electricity. Our water was, I still had water, but we didn't have any electricity, and I cooked with electricity.
So you really couldn't do anything until everything started to come back on. The roads were cleared out.
Yeah.
And everything. Is Katrina the worst storm or worst experience you've ever been through?
I think it was. It was the worst disaster that's ever hit us.
I would think so too. Would you be prepared if another storm like Katrina hit us today?
I don't think anybody could prepare for a storm like Katrina. But you just do the best you can. You try to get water and enough food, all that kind of stuff that you need to do when you know they're coming. But I don't think anybody could really prepare for Katrina. The way it was, and so much destruction, and it was just a terrible, terrible time for everyone during that time.
It really was. When you think of the storm, what's the memories that pop in your mind that you see most clearly, that you think of?
Well, mostly it was the destruction. Just look at the coast; it just wiped it out. In New Orleans, it was a terrible time for those people. There was numerous lives lost during that time.
Really, it was just.
And my son lives in a trailer, and 2 trees fell on his house. His house was completely destroyed.
Dang. Was it a trailer or?
It's a trailer, and they had to find them a place to live, because they couldn't live in it. You couldn't even get in it anymore. So that was a bad time for them. Took them about 2 weeks to find a place to even move, and they were staying with me during that time. And it was hard because I had so many people in the house, and we had no
no electricity.
air, or
Yeah.
I couldn't cook, but you just do the best you can during that time. And God really blessed us. He wasn't any of us hurt, but he lost his trailer, and he's at the home had his place to live, and they had to find a place to rent until they could, get it
Back
all
up
clear.
to shape,
Yeah,
where they could live in it again.
they couldn't live in it anymore. It was completely destroyed.
So they buy a new trailer overall. I mean,
No, they build them a home.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the worst thing that happened from the storm, or maybe after the storm? Just the worst experience.
We're just cleaning up and trying to get everything back to normal. Of course, it took a long time because I didn't have any electricity for about 2 weeks. And they finally got the electricity back on, and during that time, those people, the power companies from different places, the late man that got mine back on was from Georgia. And they came from all over to help, and people were so nice and so good to help us during that time.
Really were just a blessing in disguise for them to come down so selflessly and then help the people who need help. What do you think about all the damage to the coast into New Orleans, like the floodgate breaking, and then all the massive waves that destroyed houses and casinos and everything on the coast?
It was really a bad time for people, and a lot of them still haven't recovered from
From the damage.
Yeah, and the loss of home, and a lot of lives were lost during that time.
People are still grieving over it, and then it's just a terrible experience overall.
Should I tell about caves now?
Sure.
I have a daughter that lives in Louisiana. She lives in Varndover, Louisiana, and they had a lot of property damage to their place. They had 2 barns completely destroyed. They had a big building that they kept the farm equipment in. It was destroyed, and they had some damage to the house. They had to have a new roof, and it was a long time before they got any electricity back on. It was about 2 months before they even got electricity back on at their house, and it was 6 months before they got any phone service back on the road that they lived on. Now they have
Office phone.
they have an office phone in Angie. They have an insurance company there. Now they got their phone back on and the electricity back on pretty quick, but at home it was a long time before they could get anything done, about the electricity and the phone service. And during that time, my daughter had been in a wreck, and she had a terrible neck pain, and the doctors could not find out what it was causing it. And finally, she found this doctor that she went to in New Orleans, and that they had surgery. Found out that she had a leaking disc in her neck, and she was going to have surgery the week of Katrina. And of course, when all that come, she was going to have it at Arshner's, and she didn't even know where her doctor was. And she tried to find him, and she didn't know where he was. And he had tried to call her, and he couldn't contact her because her phones were all down.
Yeah.
And then he finally contacted her at the week of Thanksgiving. God just led him to her, I guess, and she got her surgery back on. He had opened his office up in Baton Rouge, and she went out and they did the surgery, and she got home the day before Thanksgiving. And it was such a blessing to get her neck, all that pain away from her neck, and all that, and she got all that done, and it was such a blessing. God just blessed them in such a way that you just can't imagine how good God is to all of us, and how He kept us safe during all that time. And it was just, I don't know, it was just something that we were just so thankful for. We really had something to be thankful for that Thanksgiving.
I believe so. Yeah. Even though with all the damage and the injuries and just all the pain that the storm brought, do you think it brought us closer together as people? You know,
Yeah, it did. It brought all of us closer together. And
just work together and try to rebuild to where we once were.
yeah, it took a long time to get everything back, to halfway normal. And but anyway, it was just a time that it was a bad time for everybody because there was so much damage and so much property loss and just everything. It was just a hard time for everybody.
Well, you already spoke most of it, but how did it affect? I know your house was fine and everything, no injuries here. You already spoke most of it. How did it affect the rest of your immediate family?
Well, it was
Most of their stuff was destroyed, wasn't
well,
it?
Gary's was my son's son. Everything he lost it. They lost everything.
In their trailer?
Yeah, they had to start over again. And then I have a daughter who lives on the coast that lives in a trailer on the Back Bay, and her trailer was not touched. In the trailer park that she lives in, it's kind of dipped down and got trailers. The trailer right next to hers was completely destroyed, and several others of the trailers were, but in some of them they were not even touched.
No, scratch.
And they were fine. They stayed during his mother lives at Van Cleve, and they have a basement in her house, and that's where they were during the hurricane. But they didn't know. It took them several days to be able to get back to the trailer to see if what was happening, and it was not even touched.
Just another blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know.
You just can't understand somehow how it just dipped down and touched different trailers in that trailer park and left some that wasn't even touched.
But then it could have been them,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it wasn't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
something to praise God for. I know it's been 9 years, but has everything gone back to normal? Like the trees cleared up and everything? Have you fully recovered since the storm?
Well, yeah, I guess you'd say we have recovered, but it's not ever going to be the same. I don't think you don't ever get it all done up. But anyway, our lives have gone on. There's been a lot happened since that time to me. Even I've had a lot of health problems. I've had cancer. I've had Parkinson, and I just have a lot of health problems now that I didn't have before the storm. But God has kept me going, and I'm
Keep
gonna go
on.
as long as I can.
Well, in general, do you think the storm was a good experience or bad experience or a
Well,
mix
It was
or?
a bad experience for most people, I would say, but I think it did bring people closer together, maybe closer to God. That's where we needed to be, and that's where we need to be now.
I really agree with you there. Well, thank you for your time. Just thank you.